react. You whisper in my name, thinking I won't be the same. Turn fiction into fact. See what you didn't know, bruises that I'll never show, slipping on your every jab. So tighten up your fist, step into the ring with this. I hope your mama's got your back. First round, you thought you would've knocked me down. Fifth round, bleeding out the side of your mouth. Final round, pulling the sound of my name in the crowd. You hit a buzz. Oh, 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 oh. You hit a buzz. Oh, 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 oh. Just 'cause I took a break, you're making a huge mistake, thinking you can take the throne. Look at you trembling, step into the lion's den. Bet you wish you stayed at home. Begging for mercy underneath your breath when I ain't even sweating yet. My legend's written in the stone, yeah. Your crying age in defeat is now your only friend. Even your mama's gotta know. First round, you thought you would've knocked me down. Fifth round, bleeding out the side of your mouth. Final round, only the sound of my name in the crowd. You hit a buzz. Oh, 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 oh. You hit a buzz. Oh, 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 First round, fifth round, final round. Oh, yeah. First round, fifth round, final round. No, 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 no. First round, you thought you would've knocked me down. Fifth round, bleeding out the side of your mouth. Final round, only the sound of my name in the crowd. You hit a buzz. Oh, 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 oh. You hit a buzz. Oh, 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 oh,
You're watching In Time with Nicholas Lamar Suter. He's so dreamy.
Hello, hello, everyone, and welcome to Old Timers. My name is Nick. Downtime. My name is. I suggest someone.
Thanks for that vote of confidence.
Someone at the beginning had suggested we should do a show called Old Timers. I was just like, I think that's what we're gonna do. We could just rename. Oh,
and we'll spend an hour talking about the soup they serve at the cafeteria.
Yeah.
It was better when I was younger.
Yeah, when I was a kid. Welcome to Downtime. I already have a super chat. Thank you, Dunk on You. We'll get to that. We'll get to a few other things. To those of you who have. Downtime, we do have a separate channel for Downtime, and if you can go and subscribe to that, that would be great. One issue is they've changed the, that channel was monetized, but the entire channel has been demonetized, and we don't have the hours yet, and we figured we'd just do Downtime on this channel. Now, one of the consequences of that is the Downtime show has been moving more towards politics, which is fine, especially given what's going on right now. But and we're talking about bringing back, getting guests again for Downtime. We've had a few guests that have been some common ones. Brooks is always a delight to have on. We've had Xandring on, of course. But I think you had even mentioned, like sort of getting back to not talking politics and just having, some of those conversations. And
yeah. I like the lightheartedness of the just the broad general chats.
Yes.
Rather than trying to drill down on current events, because let's face it, present day current events are pretty damn depressing. I could do with less of that in my life.
Well, the at least the first couple of things that I thought about chatting about today, and sometimes we have a topic and sometimes we wing it, maybe aren't going to be so lighthearted. But yeah, that's what, we got the fireplace, we got this. So for those of you who, and I think most of you have been around long enough to know that this is just a slightly different format. But so one of the things, because we had been talking yesterday about all of these things going on, and somebody had said, what can I do about it? And we talked about protests, and we talked about things that you can genuinely do. But in terms of day to day, there is, other than staying informed, there's not a whole heck of, it's stuff that's influencing your life and happening to you and to the rest of this country. It's not, you're not the Attorney General, you're not, so you can support, you can donate, you can do these things, but there are things that are much more within your domain of control. So that got me thinking about the Serenity Prayer, not in particular because I'm, a big fan of AA or anything like that, but I think it's a great thing. God grant me the serenity to control the things I can control, to let go of the things I can't control, and the wisdom to recognize the difference. Something along those lines.
Yeah.
And I thought, given that this world seems so out of control for so many people, let's talk about what do you do when you're in situations where you feel like you can't control it or something goes wrong. What do you do when your hippo dies? Is, I guess, what I'm when you accidentally electrocute your hippo, what do you do? And I don't know. So that was one of the things I thought about talking about. And have you heard a lot of people telling you that they feel like there's nothing they can do? And what do you think?
Well, when people say that to me, I say two things. Number one, get involved. There are groups in your community that will be working on things that you have an interest in. So get involved with them. Give, your time. I'm not saying necessarily your money, but you could give them your money too. But just get involved, because then you meet other people with like thoughts to your own, and it becomes a less depressing matter. That's one. And the second thing, which is the way I try to conclude every broadcast, is communicate with your elected officials. Let them know on a weekly basis what's important to you. You don't need to, take care of this or I'm not going to vote for you. Just call up and say, or write an email or what have you, and let them know these are the things that are important to me. Please work towards making these come to fruition. And I think those two things help to do a lot to at least somewhat alleviate the sense of powerlessness that many of us are feeling right now.
Yeah, one problem I got is I don't like very many people. I was going to say I don't like anybody, but, it's like, okay, I'm on with somebody I like. I like chatting with you. I like hanging with you. I like Titan, but I'm professionally required to like him because if I don't like him, he could totally screw up the show. I like 𝐒𝐨𝐮𝐭𝐿. I like a lot of show-related people who. But I've never been
So it's a self-sorting program. Got it.
Yeah, exactly. If you'll come on the show and do as instructed, I like you. That's basically how I make friends. I have mastered a great many social skills, obviously. So yeah, a bit misanthropic. So I know how to. I just realized, as far as I know, it's public, and then I just realized I hadn't asked you beforehand, but you had lost a dog recently, and I don't usually. I try not to bring that up unless. And I remember losing my first dog. I've told this story before. You know the story, which was I was always a cat person. I didn't like dogs. And then what I realized was it's not that I don't like dogs. It's that every dog that I've met has not been trained and is acting like a wild animal, humping everything in the room because nobody has established dominance and established a pattern. And once I got a dog, it changed my life. I mean, I got exercise with the dog. I learned to be a more confident person because I had to be confident for the dog. If I wasn't, then the dog was going to go to hell. So it's like all of a sudden, it almost like
he's nervous. I better be nervous too.
Yeah. And they're so in tune, and it would be funny too because my wife, who had a marvelous career and was making lots of money, loved the dog just as much as I did, but didn't spend that same kind of time and didn't have the connection with the dog. So, and I worked from home. That's how come I was like, why do we have to get a dog? She goes, oh, it'll be my dog. I was like, no, it won't, because you have to drive an hour and a half to get to work, an hour and a half back, and then between. I was like, so it's going to be my dog. So, she'd get nervous. He'd start to get nervous, and then I'd snap my finger so he'd look at me. He'd look at me and see I'm perfectly calm, and then he's like, oh, there's nothing to worry about. And she's like, why are you... I was just like, it's not for you. It's not that you're wrong. It's not that you're... I was just like, it's just a member of the family, which is very hard to explain to people who don't, and not in a way... I mean, I guess all pets are, but dogs integrate in a way that cats don't. Cats tolerate you, because you feed them. Dogs don't. So I still haven't.
A dog
recovered.
will make you feel like you're king of the universe.
Yeah.
And a cat is sure that it's the king of the universe, and you're there simply to take care of its desires.
Somebody had just said something about cats that was in a way that I can't. Hopefully, I'll remember before the end of the show. That just I thought beautifully explained the cat's personality and its sort of desire to be independent and I don't know. Anyways, yeah. So I think haven't gotten over the loss of my dog, and that was I think over 10 years ago. Had to have been over 10 years ago now. But again, he revolutionized my life, and he revolutionized how I thought about animals. Now, you can talk about... Oh, we have Greg Terry here. Greg Terry, thank you so much for showing up. We're looking forward to do... Greg and I have talked about doing a weekly show. Many of you, everybody here knows I'm an atheist. He is religious. I have decided that he is such a good guy, I'm willing to look the other way. But good to see you, Greg. We'll see if we can do that show. He's busy, I'm busy. I just finished my move. But anyways, my atheism teaches forgiveness, so I forgive the fact that he's religious. We were talking dogs and cats. He clearly concurred with the dog sentiment. Oh, okay. I try to take the good from it, right? And I say, okay, where would I be if I'd never had a dog? Because I would still hate dogs. I would still hate dogs, and I did hate them. My friend, when I was in junior high school, I had a friend. He had a dog. Every time I went over, the dog would jump on you, could knock you over pretty easily if he wanted to. When you were my size, would hump, and they'd yell at it, and then it'd pee on things, and they'd yell at it. It did nothing. So I thought, this is a dog. I would still think that. So here's all this good stuff, and I guess I'm almost framing this as glass half empty, glass half full. So, how do you deal with loss in general? You've had, you've had a number of losses. This is the Old Timers show today, I guess. I don't know why.
It's difficult to say. I mean, it has an impact, but in a lot of ways, I just kind of go numb. And that's not just for pets. I mean, my parents, both of them, passed relatively recently. And it was kind of the same thing. You feel a sense of loss. Grief will hit you at random times, at least for me. But I'm not one of those people who just breaks down and is inconsolable for days or weeks or whatever. It's life goes on. Death is a part of the pattern of life, and we need to, all of us, reconcile ourselves to that reality. So it's hard to say how it impacts me. So I definitely miss the dog that just passed away. And occasionally I'll see something that reminds me of her, and I'll go, "Oh, darn!" And I think that other two dogs can sense that kind of grief, because they'll come up and they're saying, "I want comfort," but in reality, it's, "I know I need to comfort you for whatever reason." Yeah. So yeah, it's an interesting situation.
Let's see. Blonde Bombsheller. This may be the one. She may have even been the one who said it to me. Dogs have owners. Cats have staff. Yeah.
That's a good description.
That's it. I think she's got it. She's got it. Thank you for that. It's interesting. So I think, so when I was in high school, I was always interested by philosophy. That's why I got a BA in philosophy. And I read a lot of Taoism, 𝐍𝐢𝐜𝐴. I also read a lot on Buddhism. One of the things, the Dalai Lama has, quote, written several books that were actually written by it's a long story, but it's his words. But the Dalai Lama had written a number of books, but one of them was The Art of Happiness, which I enjoyed the book immensely. But in it, he says, part of being happy in life is, being happy in life is a choice. It's a choice you make. And I found that phenomenally offensive at the time, because I was like, well, I'm not choosing to be sad. And are you saying that my emotions are, if it's a choice, it almost seems fake to me. But I've since come away with a new take on it, but I'm curious as to your thoughts.
I would say it extends beyond just happiness. I think any of the major emotions are in many ways a choice. And you let yourself be influenced by how you're feeling at the moment. You can maintain a sort of detached indifference to everything around you, and choose what you want to accept as, oh, today I will feel happy. Oh, today I will feel sad or angry or what have you. Because there's always a myriad of emotions that are swirling around you all the time. So I think all of us, without knowing it, make choices as to which emotion or emotions are particularly relevant to us at the moment, and we express those. Even though the others are still there, we don't acknowledge them. We just kind of push them into the back corner and say, not today, maybe tomorrow.
That's That's it. Yeah. Okay. Now I want to get into my like consequentialism and or what is it? It's not chaos theory, but it's the difference between free will and determinism. But
Right.
yeah, so for me, the glass is half empty versus half full. Everybody's heard it, and that's taken on new meaning where I've sort of realized you do have a choice in how you say
there's a
it.
third option.
Completely full.
No,
I think you're the one who
the
told
engineer's viewpoint, which is the glass is either twice as big as it needs to be, or or there's half as much water as there should be. One of the two.
Or the scientist's option, which is it's completely full. Half of it's full with half water and half air. So yeah. Okay. Fine. I'm trying to have like a really deep conversation, and we're just gonna how many glasses. Well, if you believe in a multiverse, there's an infinite number of glasses.
How many glasses can dance on the head of a pin?
Yeah. Oh dear. Oh dear.
Let's mix our metaphors.
Now I'm thirsty. Thanks, Nick.
Oh, I like Senator Porpoise's comment with the programmer's option. How do I install Doom on this?
Yeah. Porpoise would want to install Linux onto the glass. It's like, you know what the problem with the glass is that the glass doesn't have a Linux on it. All right, I have a few other things, but let me get to. You guys have been patient. You guys have been super chatting, which I really do appreciate. It really does help. We're in time. I'm doing this full time now, so the super chats, the donations, and becoming a member really helps. And it also helps those of you who come onto the Discord and participate. Just chat about the news, chat about what we're doing, and those of you who share it. It all really does help. But our Discord has been pretty active lately, and that informs the show very much too. So so many ways to support, and I'm very grateful for all of them. There are those who do the hardest thing you could possibly do and be willing to actually go on air with me and to call me a friend. I don't know what insane institution Commander escaped from, but I'm delighted that he's decided that he wants to spend his spare time hanging out with me. So Duncan $20. I'm not going. He's not going. I don't know what group. I don't know any group. Slava Ukraini, Heroyam Slava. Yeah. Are we on air now? Listen, we're lucky. We're lucky we're on. Yeah. It wouldn't be the first time we've gotten halfway through a show and Titan's like, so when are you guys starting? I'm like, what do you mean? We're halfway through. It's been a great interview. It's been one of our better shows. Oh, there is a sinking feeling, unlike which it's like once you realize it's like, okay, either we connected to a random, which YouTube will let you do. So YouTube uses these things called stream keys, which is just a series of numbers. Well, and that's it. You don't need a username or password to stream. You just need a stream key. So that's one way that, like, if we stream to another channel, they just give us the key on the channel and we can stream to their channel. So it makes it really easy. There's no username or password. But if you get the key wrong, the question then becomes, where the hell are you streaming to?
Where the hell are you streaming to?
Because it says, so you're live. I'm like, we're connected to YouTube. Somebody's watching. I just don't know. Like, these Koreans are like, does anyone understand? Who are these dumb Americans with
Who
the
are these
fireplace? Yeah. Oh, dear Lord.
Boy.
So, if you look behind Commander, you'll see a bottle of headache medicine. That's what he was taking prior to streaming with you, my friend Nick. Yeah. It's well, it was OxyContin, and now he's like, okay, I think I can do it with just the 𝐋𝐸ZIN. Excedrin migraine. I don't know. I think
That and ibuprofen.
Ibuprofen, that he gets through the streams. I don't know what Greg Terry does to it. May be like a Hail Mary or something, and he's just like, God, get me through this stream with Nick Suter and all, but he's good about it. You never know. He's a professional. We start. It's a great show. Let me get through this with this heathen. Duncan, who also gave 5 memberships. Thank you so much for your memberships. Duncan, we really appreciate it, and the memberships help out. Daddy Jim, 10 British pounds sterling. Great to see you, Nick and Commander. Slava Ukraine, guys. Heroyam Slava. I am going to go back to Duncan News because it was early on. So just for the reference, we were talking about changing the name of the show to Old Timers. And his $20 super chat. I'm not going. He's not going. I don't know what group. I don't know any of you guys. that was in that was a very good super chat. Apologize.
What time is the special at the restaurant?
Yeah. Wait. It's 9 o'clock. Wow, that's like midnight.
Special.
I'm going to bed. K&K, member for 9 months. I am not an old timer. I'm an honored timer. Absolutely, KK, and thank you very much for being a member. And Sinister Porpoise, are we talking about Delinquent Donnie, Flash Patel, Secretary Whiskey Leaks, Secretary Brainworm, or Secretary Puppy Killer tonight? We don't know. Probably not. My suspicion is not. We may get on a couple. I realized we'd been talking so much news, and then after watching what was going on, I said our next show of Downtime has to be on one of 2 things. One, how to solve your problems and find happiness that isn't at the bottom of a barrel, or a bottom of a bottle of Jack Daniels.
Barrel's good too. Yeah.
Barrels too. Well, I'm thinking barrel.
Rum
watching
comes
the
in
news.
barrels.
Yeah. Well, and I mean it's going to be a long 4 years. But so there was that, or surrealism, one of the 2, and I decided we weren't going to do a show on surrealism, so here we are. So, like I said, the half empty, half full, for me, and I think this is I used to say, like, all intellectuals have this problem, and I've met plenty of intellectuals who do not have this problem. For me, it always feels intellectually dishonest to take the choice that makes you feel better, even if all other things are equal. So all things are equal. Which one should you choose? I go for the one that makes me feel the worst, because I say, okay, at least I can't be accused of being overly optimistic or whatever. So for me, the glass is always half empty. Half empty, that's it. Now, the Dalai Lama in his book, The Art of Happiness, talks about, and it's actually not the Dalai Lama, it's the guy who wrote it and translated it, because it had to be translated. But he said on his first day meeting the Dalai Lama, they go to the airport, they go to India. He arrives in India, Dalai Lama picks him up, and they get in a taxi. And the taxi, about 10 minutes before they get to where they're supposed to get, pulls over. The guy pulls out a gun and robs them. Robs the Dalai Lama.
Holy cow.
And they hand over all their money, kicks them out of the cab, takes off. They are now stranded in India,
In the middle of nowhere,
having been robbed. He's with the Dalai Lama, which is it's sort of like the Dalai Lama and a writer get into a cab. It sounds like a joke, but we need to add a third person. But anyways, actually there was a third person, and the writer was talking to there was a producer, somebody, and they were so upset. And he said the Dalai Lama was just the current Dalai Lama. And again, it's called The Art of Happiness. You can look it up. I like the book very much. Again, I was initially offended because he's like, it's a choice. And I was just like, yes, I'm choosing to be miserable. And the more I thought about it, I was like, yeah, you kind of are. You've just been conditioned to not realize you're making that choice over and over and over again. I mean, it's... but given an infinite number of ways to look at things, I tend to, just because I believe it's more intellectually honest, to pick the one I like the least, because that way I can't be accused of picking it because I like it, if that makes any sense. So,
No, it does.
yeah, well, and I think it comes from the BA in philosophy, the father's a lawyer, yada, yada, yada. So, the writer and the other guy are arguing about what they're going to do, how upset they are. They've just been robbed. And they turn to the Dalai Lama, who's fine. And he's just sitting there kind of watching them and listening to them talk. And he's just sort of, he looks like he's thinking about something. And they say, what are you thinking about? He says, I'm thinking about how desperate that man must have to be willing to denigrate himself to this kind of behavior. What needs to be going on in his life that would make him become this kind of person?
Yeah.
The Dalai Lama felt sorry for the guy who had just robbed them. And in terms of mental health, his view is just as his reaction is just as valid as all the others, but his reaction is probably going to lead to fewer heart attacks, and it was an interesting way to start the book was this story in the
Oh yeah.
So I don't know. Thoughts on that? I saw you nodding your head with the intellectual thing, and I think it's just because, yeah, if all other things being equal, I never choose the one I would most prefer, because I just feel like, okay, if I ever have to defend my point of view to somebody, they're going to say, you just chose it because it's the one you most prefer. So I always go for worst case scenario. We're all good. I am Marvin on. Did you ever see? The depressed robot in Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. I could tell you the odds of survival, but you won't
But you
like
wouldn't
it.
like them.
That's me.
Yeah. A lot of my friends tell me that when it comes time to make a choice, I go out of my way not to make the choice. I will go over all the options with you again and again, and find little nuances of why this one might be better than this one, and I wait for you to make the choice so I don't have to take the blame.
That's an interesting
And if
strategy.
it turns out well, then I can say, it was just so brilliant for choosing that option. Wow, I'm in awe of you. And it makes them feel good.
Well, I would imagine. I wasn't. Life of the party is not what I'm looking for, but I would imagine it encourages people to want to spend more time with you.
I don't know. I think it's that I'm one of those people who constantly sees, different branches coming off of the course of action that you're taking. And I worry about, well, if I choose this, then this might happen. But if I don't choose this and I do it this way, then this might happen. And I become kind of like paralyzed, mentally speaking, about making that choice, because all I can see are bad outcomes. Because I am a natural pessimist.
Which you said before, and I would find hard to believe, but I tend to be one too, and people don't believe that. I'm also very much an introvert, and people are like, you have a YouTube show, you did the debate with Hovind, which was watched by 300,000 people. And you're just like, and I was just like, yeah, that's not, what an introvert is versus an extrovert are two very different things. And this is a skill set for me.
Yeah. Yeah, my father was an enormous extrovert. I mean, he'd be standing in line at the grocery store and strike up conversations with people in the line with him. And in the space of, a minute or two, they'd suddenly be best buddies. He'd invite them over for dinner and all this stuff. And for me, it's like, I don't want to talk to anybody when I go shopping. I don't want to have any interaction with people. And if I can avoid looking at the cashier when I hand them my money or a credit card over, that's what I'll do. So, yeah, the extremes of introvert and extrovert. We had to take a personality test when I was at Naval War College. And the Myers-Briggs test, I don't know if
Yeah. Yes, I know it well.
I'm not saying I put any great faith in it, but the first letter is either an I or an E, which tests whether you're an introvert or an extrovert. And the guy who was doing the analysis of our results with us looked at mine and he said, well, you skewed so far heavily into the introvert that it affects all the other results.
Oh dear. Oh dear. Yeah, I feel like that. So your dad sounds like a delightful, he was a delightful guy. I've known a few people like that, and it's an interesting sensation because I like them.
To strangers, it was wonderful. I just made a new friend. It's great. To his family, especially to me, it was like, the proverbial nails on the blackboard kind of thing. It's like, why are you talking to this person? And good God, you just invited a potential mass murderer into our house for dinner. What is wrong with you?
Well, and then you have to be on for dinner, right? Because the other thing is the definition that I like and most use of introvert versus extrovert is an introvert gains energy from being by themselves. So they recuperate and gain energy by being by themselves and expend energy being with other people. Extroverts gain energy by being with other people. They actually sort of feed off of the energy from other people and engagement with other people, and they lose energy when they're by themselves. So that's it. So for me, with rare exception, there are people like when you and I have these conversations, especially when they're going kind of like they are tonight, by the time this is done, I won't be able to sleep for like 6 hours because I'll have gotten so much energy from this discussion. But that's usually only with people who are willing to have nuanced, high-end discussions on, if you wanted to talk about the weather, I don't think you and I would be friends. So I would, if I knew someone like your dad was going to be at the grocery store on a given day, I would be like, okay, I'm going to a new grocery store. That's because it when he invites someone for dinner, you have to be on. You have to, it's like, for me, I'm reasonably conscious of the pen in fact, I sometimes have a pen just to increase my level of consciousness and thinking and deliberateness. I have to behave deliberately when I'm with other people. I don't have to do that when I'm by myself. And extroverts, it's sort of the other way around, which is so it's just like you'd spend a weekend all by yourself in the house alone. Yes. COVID was a blessing, except it turned out that my family was going to be locked in with me. Yeah. And it was funny because my eldest is an introvert also. And so, two things. First of all, both she and I were like, that said, we'll keep to separate corners of the house. It's like we're not going to bother each other. But the other thing was, the extroverts in the family were going stir crazy. And we could feel that energy. And we were just like, ooh, it's like that bad vibe. And she'd be like, I don't know what to. I was like, yeah, we got to find a way to get him out of the house. And I know that's for the most part, I've almost always worked from home. And that is the level of, and okay, so I got a degree in teaching. Teachers tend to be actually very introverted. Teaching is an extraordinarily solitary profession. Getting teachers to work together, to do cross collaborations, you could have a science teacher go over the science of Ice 9 from Kurt Vonnegut if the teachers were willing to talk and collab. No, teachers died. If you go to the teachers lounge, they're either gossiping about something or they're just all sitting there quietly. It's not, there's no collaboration. So in terms of that or writing, you don't write 6 books if you enjoy hanging out with people. Oh, there he is, Dorgy. He is not. Okay, so SAG, the Screen Actors Guild, says that anybody on camera gets $50 minimum. I am not adhering to that. I'm just letting you know right now we are not under SAG contract. So
no, he works for Doggy Cookies.
Oh, perfect. Well, and if you're willing to pay him, that's great.
And you don't even have to give him a whole one. You give him a fraction one, and he's still delighted. Oh my gosh!
Titan just made a very interesting observation. During COVID, extroverts got a mild taste of what introverts go through every day of their lives. Let's see. And then Pyro Kurt Brubaker, $5 US, also a member with the purple clock. So for quite a while, thank you for spending some of the super chats on the streaming issues. Yes, we have worked very hard on those lag issues. We do apologize, and it looks like they're under control. And if they're not, we will fix them. How's that for positive attitude? But my pleasure. Glad we were able to get it done. Solid stream at 1080. Good. Very glad to hear it. 𝐶𝐶𝐸 it worked this time. Yes. And thank you for that super chat. Thank you for the $5. And very glad that that you are enjoying the stream. So, and everybody knows by this point I moved, and it's just a new location. Same basic hardware, but it has to be reset up. It has to be broken down, set up, and it's cameras, microphones, and the acoustics are different. So it's a forever friggin' thing. And then figuring out how to get the internet to work reliably is an issue, especially when you're talking to YouTube, which again will let you send the stream anywhere. It's just I forgot to. So you get the stream key wrong. You send the stream, you have no idea where it is. So as soon as you find out, and usually the way I find out is Titan sends me a message saying, when are you guys going to start? And we've been talking for 5 to 15 minutes. So the first thing that goes through my mind is major disappointment that everybody's missed what I thought was a really great show. The second thing that goes through my mind is, how do I break it to, co-hosts, guests, whatever, that everything we just did, didn't air. Sorry, we gotta do it again. And then the last thing that goes through my mind is, where are we streaming to? I mean, is this going to, some guy on the John is just sitting there scrolling through YouTube videos, and this just popped into his, I don't know.
What the hell is this?
Oh, dear Lord. So, but under control. So the super chats and everything really do help. So thank you very much, Pyro, and everyone who's been helping tonight. So, we've been talking about, and I guess to put it short, coping skills. And I part of it is the pessimist in me. I think I just started watching a cartoon called Rick and Morty that I've never heard of, never seen, nothing. And keep in mind, for the most part, because I have 2 young daughters, it's like Dora the Explorer is what I watch. Because by the time they go to bed, I'm really kind of too tired to watch anything else. And so they dominate the television, and we watch what's in their, whatever they want to watch. But, so Rick and Morty, mad scientist who has seen so much of the world that he's basically cranky, kind of an asshole, real, just like. But it's disillusionment with life, and I think that that's a tough thing. I've found that a tough thing to fight. I don't know how tough or easy it is. There are other people who seem to make it look. I mean, you take a look at, again, the Dalai Lama, Tony Robbins, whatever. You look at people who seem to make it look easy, and even as they get older, I always said, I'm not going to get cranky when I get older. That's what everybody does. I'm not going to do it. And then I started to get a little older, started getting pain more. I was like, yeah, I'm a little more cranky. Yeah. So.
But you have to wonder with those kind of people, though, who are in the public eye and have to put on a public face, how much of that is really them and how much of it is the act that they put on for their business?
You do have to wonder that. And there are enough. I've met enough genuinely good people who get sincere pleasure out of helping others, even when nobody knows. That it seems to me that there are people who either have a coping mechanism for that darker sort of side, or have found, or it either does roll off their back, and maybe they become somebody like Tony Robinson, or so. I don't know. It's
their inner bliss.
Yeah, and by the way, it's a great fraud thing too. I mean, it's a great way to make. I mean, that The Secret thing that came out. I'm just like, The secret is think positively, which actually does work, but it's not a secret. It's not something you can write a book. I guess it is something you can write a book about and make millions of dollars. That's what I should have done. I should have either that or invent bio water. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take water. I don't know. We'll do something to it. We'll ionize it or do something to it that has no real impact or efficacy, but we're going to call it bio water. And it's been infused with ions, and sell it for $1 million.
I shone a bright UV light at it, and now it's better.
And now it's exactly. So, and it's not to say that all people who are the positive, but there's a lot there that is a scam as well. There are people who scam, the positivity, and that's so it's hard to tell, and you always know. Sister Porpoise, $2. I'm so glad I'm in a job not in the public eye. Yeah, I've never. I had stage fright when I was a kid. I hated any signs of weakness, anything that showed or made it look like I was weak. Hated it. So if I found a weakness, if I found something I was scared of, I would just haul ass towards it. And I was a assistant counselor, junior counselor in archery. And the counselor who ran the archery program was going to be gone for 3 days. He said, would you like to run it all on your own? I said, sure, I'd love to. That would be great. He goes, okay. But that means you have to stand up in front of the camp and announce the program that's going to be going on for the next 3 days. He goes, I've already filled out the program. You just have to read it off. And I was just like, oh my God, I'm not standing up in front of the entire camp and doing that. No. Why don't you do it? He goes, well, since I'm not going to be here, I figured best if you do it, but all right. And he was about to go up, and then I was just like, why'd I do that? I did that because I'm terrified of public speaking. It was like, oh no, can't have that. So I grabbed the sheet from him. I said, no, I'm doing it. He was like, you want to go? I said, yeah. So I go up, speak in front of everybody, come back, my heart's racing, so on and so forth, and that's it. I'll get nervous before a debate or a show or something, but the public speaking just never really bothered me again. And someone said, hey, do you mind? What was it? I was asked to give up my grandmother's 80th birthday. She knew a lot of people. It was huge, and it was a big deal. And they're like, oh, they want a speech from the grandchildren. I was just like, okay, so grandchildren can go make a speech. Well, I figured you're the only one who can, do it off the cuff, and you got 3 minutes. So it's just like, oh, okay. So I'm speaking for all of them. I'm like, yeah. I was like, oh, well, I'm never so happy as when I'm telling other people what they're thinking. So, yeah. But I don't know. It doesn't. Yeah, where everybody's a unique flower. How about you? I mean, you obviously. I mean, this is public speaking. Yeah.
Yeah. Anytime I hear that, I'm reminded of that scene from Monty Python and the Holy Grail. We're all unique individuals. We're all into unique individuals. Don't say what I say. Think for yourselves. We won't say what you say. We'll think for ourselves. Yeah, that's the story of humanity.
Yep. All right. So let's see. That was $2, Sinister Porpoise. Thank you, Sinister, for that. So I did. So yesterday, we had, and this was pessimism or optimism. That's a good question. So we are now going to delve just a little bit, at least, into what's been going on, because I was a little surprised, and because you do strike me a bit more the optimist, but like I said, I strike people the extrovert, and I'm an introvert, so I get very much the ability or I get the possibility of a misperception there. But I was very surprised when I said, do you think Trump is going to succeed? And this was basically in his goal of, for all intents and purposes, overthrowing the Constitution and getting a third term and getting into this, what he's attempting.
Dismantling democracy.
Dismantling. Thank you. That was it. Thank you. And you said yes. So, given that, how do you're seeing it, you're watching it happen, I'm watching it happen.
Yep.
What do you do to help yourself process it?
I fall back on looking for historical parallels, because I think, the old adage of those who don't know history are condemned to repeat it. And I think history tends to repeat, not, literally, but you can see patterns developing in certain ways that are very similar to the way patterns developing today. And so I look at what's going on with Trump and the MAGAs, and I say, there are a lot of parallels to this, to what we saw in Weimar Germany in the 1930s, when we ended up getting the Nazis in power. And why is that? What were the conditions in Weimar Germany that are similar to what we're going through in the US today? Why are people so receptive to this message that you would think a sane person pausing to actually think through what's being said would realize just how horrific living under such a system would be, yet they're willing to just, embrace it with all their being? Why is that? And that's how I deal with it, is I try to look for historical parallels. My primary hobby, as I think I've told you before, is wargaming. And many other wargamers, it's either the competitive nature of, you're Napoleon and I'm Wellington and we're going to refight Waterloo. We'll see which one of us is better. I don't really care about the competition. Others like to see the story that emerges as you play the game out. For me, the real attraction of war games is that you can look at the situation that's developing in your game and try to understand why the historical commanders made choices the way they did, and what information you have right now in the game is driving you in a different direction or in the same direction. That's one of the things to me that's most fascinating, is to see those commonalities, trying to understand the why behind the what. So in a lot of ways, that's how I deal with the current situation of, why is it going this way? And why is it that certain avenues that are, or approaches that are being attempted are being successful or unsuccessful in countering that kind of thing.
So, is it intellectual curiosity? Is it bettering yourself? Why do you put yourself in their shoes and say, okay, if I had that level of knowledge, what would I have chosen versus what they did? What is it? Is that just?
I think it's a desire to understand,
to
understand why things happen. Some people can look out and see, I don't know, snow falling and say, "Oh, isn't that beautiful?" And to me, it's like, yeah, it's beautiful, but why is it snowing? Why now? Why didn't it snow yesterday when it was colder? But instead we got rain. Why are we getting snow now? And that kind of thing. That's kind of the way I view the world, is to get a deeper understanding, I think.
All right.
It's not an intellectual quest for knowledge. I'll clarify that. It's just a personal, I wonder why.
Well,
and I think a lot of that is because growing up, as I did overseas, you saw all these different cultures and understood and learned that they saw things differently than you. And that helped you understand why, trying to figure that out, that helped you understand the why they make decisions the way they do, whereas I would make a different decision in that situation. Does that make sense?
It does. And it actually reminds me of the story you had told before of, I think it was the guy from Africa. Why am I having a hard time? And then he wanted to see an inner city in Washington. And then when he went there, to him, this was all upper middle class.
Yeah.
Was that the? Tell that story, because I'm butchering it, and then we got another super chat.
So, as you know, and regular listeners should know, my father was a CIA field operative. And one of the things when he was back in the U.S. that they would have him try to do is to not necessarily recruit foreign students to become agents, but to simply sound them out and find out if they were people that we might be interested in, because they favor views that are similar to ours, or they have weaknesses that can be exploited, or simply because, they're interested in American life. Regardless, he had been sent to, and I don't remember which school it was. I'm guessing it was Georgetown when we were stationed in D.C. And there was a student from an African country. I honestly do not recall which country. And my dad befriended him as part of this scoping him out kind of contact mission. One of the things that this guy was constantly talking about was how, everybody in Africa knew how the white man brutally oppressed the black man in America. And, he wanted to see for himself just how bad things were for the black man, because everything you show me is just all these white neighborhoods and how lovely everything is. I want to go see this particular neighborhood because everybody in Africa knows how horrible the place is. Okay. So finally, my dad agreed to it and drove him down to that section of town so he could look around for himself and see it. And when they finished driving through that neighborhood and were going back to get lunch or whatever, the student was just incensed. He was outraged, not because this was evidence of how horribly the white man was treating the black man in the U.S., but because how the black people in the U.S. who were living in conditions that for people in his country would be upper class were so, I hate to use the word, but lazy, and were allowing themselves to live in squalor, not make an effort to do anything. And, to him, it was like they have wonderful housing as compared to what we have. They have access to food, which many people in my country don't. They're starving. And he just went on and on. And it was interesting to see how the illumination of this one brief trip to one area of Washington, D.C., opened his eyes to the fact that worlds are different. And what in one place is extreme poverty, in another place can be upper middle class. So I don't know if he internalized it, but it certainly resonated with my dad. And he really, told us the story. And to me, it was like, I now understand. It was one of those, getting back to the whole, I want to understand the why. It's that perception issue that you hear about, people perceive things differently than one another. But it doesn't register until you have an anecdote like that allows you to see the reality of how that works in real life.
Nate Brody, who I think is somebody you've never met or streamed with, Xandring will remember him. Nate Brody still has a channel. He is a lawyer. But what's interesting about him is that, because there are a lot of legal channels, but he's a former police officer, former district attorney, and he's a lawyer, and he's black. So when there's a police who use excessive violence on a black person, he's been on both sides of that. When the police end up in court, he's been on both sides of that. And he's got a very interesting perspective. And there was an incident, I don't remember which one it was. It was I think before Rodney King. But there was a clearly racist incident, and he was he said, "Look, it's a problem, and it has to be addressed, and it's something that we as a country have, there's an ebb and flow, and we've sort of reached this point where like, oh, we've fixed all these problems, so we don't have to deal with it anymore, and no, we still have to deal with it." Because having said that, it was like, and people were talking about rioting at the time. He's like, you want to riot, which could end up in killing people, hurting people, and like,
or destroying your own neighborhood,
or destroying, yeah. It's like, this is white, black. This is one of the best times to be alive. I'm a black guy, and if I was going to be born anywhere, this is the country I'd want to be born in, and this is the time I'd want to be born in. I wouldn't want to be born in this country 200 years ago. There's a lot wrong, but sometimes you just see what's wrong, and you're not grateful for what you've got. And he's like, things are things are bad, but let's put in some perspective and realize that we have more freedom and more that we can do with that freedom than any country in history. Now, don't worry. Donald Trump is working hard to change those things.
to go back to the good old days.
Yeah. So that's not to anyway. It's we had him on a number of times, and I've been on his channel a number of times. It was just the way he said that it's one of those things that one has stuck with me of all the things that we've ever talked about. That one stuck with me. And he's a lawyer, and I have an affinity for lawyers, probably because my dad was one. So in the same way that you're a big fan of CIA operatives, because so all right. Anyways, I think what I'll certainly wrap up with is we mentioned yesterday too. The ending of yesterday's show was a bit on the no, I don't want to say pessimistic, but we're like, okay, this is where we stand, and I did ask you, do you think he's going to be successful? And you said yes. But we started with the McDonald's truck thing because that's absolutely hilarious, and we started with a couple of jokes because I do think that sometimes it's a laugh or cry, and I think sometimes the only way to keep your sanity is to find the humor in it, and there is humor in it. But it's also. This is without a doubt going to be one of the single biggest crises this country has ever faced, if not the biggest. We don't know yet. History has not yet been written. And as you pointed out, history does not repeat, but it certainly does rhyme. And but I will say...
Well, I will simply interrupt to note that in Generations, the authors Strauss and Howe said 2025 was going to be a watershed crisis year for the U.S. And it's shaping up that way.
It is shaping up that way. And
they had no idea it would be this kind of an internal issue, but...
And Generations was written, although they said it was it was going to be either an internal, revolution issue, or I think it was going to be like World War III.
Major war.
Yeah. Was their prediction. When did they write that? Not in the 70s.
Probably mid 80s, I think.
Mid 80s. We'll have to discuss that again. For anyone who wants to know what we're talking about, we had on Professor Shook to discuss Generations theory. Whether you have heard about it, whether you know it or not, you've used the terminology of it left and right. Boomers is a term from, I think the boomers were defined in that book. Generation X, the millennials are all having
all
been
of that
defined.
Is terminology they originated.
Yep. So you've heard of it, and it's a really interesting theory, and we've discussed it several times. And yeah, they did predict for very specific reasons. We are in the fourth turn, so that's when you're going to have something like that anyway. Yay. What was that? I didn't know.
Another reason to hate that Chinese phrase, may you live in interesting
times. May you live in it. I know. Oh, don't. Xander's in the live chat. Please don't. Oh, speaking of, yes, he did do a super chat. I want to make sure I get to that. And I'm going to have to refresh because it's decided it's not going to. There's always something. There we are.
91. Interesting. I thought it was earlier. Oh, well.
No, I think the fourth turn is supposed to have its event sometime between 22 and 26 was what I originally. It's been a while since I've looked at it. As an entering person, $10 as per my in-time contract. Here is my obligatory monthly super chat. Xander, thank you very much for being a host and for supporting the show. Xander supported the show.
And you'll just give it back to him under the table in that little brown envelope as his monthly pay.
Yeah.
It makes him look good.
Yeah, that's what. Absolutely. I'm definitely gonna give that back to him. So. I don't think there's takesy backsies in the contract. I'll have to look into that. I'm reasonably sure that we had that clause eliminated. Thank you, Xander, very much for that. No,
Just talk to HR about it. It'll be fine.
They don't get paid. They don't. Yeah. Don't. No. No. This is. You know what? We have derailed. I'm sorry. I am just. We're gonna go completely. We've gone off topic now. So I'm just gonna get us back on track. Let's stop talking about who does or doesn't make any money on this show. So, especially around Titan. All right, we've been talking about the I obviously we can't predict the future. We don't know what's going to happen. Everybody's worried. Everybody's worried. I'm worried. It's been, we're gonna keep all of our audience appraised one way or another. We're going to continue to do what we do. So please join us on our Discord, and you will find oftentimes we are ahead of the curve on breaking news. We know what's happening before other people do, and we vet the news. You will see stories that you have seen on CNN and in other places corrected in our Discord. So, and those of you who've been in our Discord for any length of time will confirm that. You've seen it. Sometimes you guys have helped participate in it. So do that. Please make sure you like and subscribe, and you share if you want other people, if you think these are worthwhile conversations, let other people know. That also helps. Thank you to everybody who super chatted. Thank you to the mods who have been working hard today. Thank you to Lance for coming on and having a marvelous discussion, and for being a co-host with me. And we will be getting other people on. As everyone knows, it's been a move, so I'm getting slower on the uptake and getting everything good to go. But we've been on it, and we're going to stay on it. We are going to continue to try to have a sense of humor about Trump, while also recognizing that, at least in my personal view, he is, and I suspect in Commander's, given what he said, a profound threat to democracy, and his actions are going to ultimately serve a very small, already privileged minority in this country at the expense of literally everybody else. So, but when you think about that, aside from saying, I better go check out In Time and see what they have to say on the latest breaking news, remember that what history also teaches is that these things do pass. They don't always come to fruition. Sometimes stranger things have happened than somebody coming and altering the course of where we're headed. Somebody, a politician who can, I don't know. But even if Trump continues successfully on his path to fascism, these things do pass. You have family, you have hopefully friends, people who care about you, and we will endeavor, as always, to keep you as informed as possible. In my view, that is a really a sacred trust, and we do our best to fulfill that, which is why when we are wrong, we correct it and do so quickly. So we will continue to honor that. Commander, any final thoughts before you go?
Not really. Been an interesting show. I think we covered a very broad range of topics, and I liked it.
Me too. I had a good time. It's been too long since we've had a real downtime show.
Yeah.
Next should be In Time with 𝐒𝐨𝐮𝐭𝐭𝐞𝐫. 𝐒𝐨𝐿𝐴𝐮𝐭𝐼𝐿 screwed up last time. He picked a co-host who didn't know what day it was. So 𝐒𝐨𝐿𝐴𝐮𝐭𝐼𝐿, yeah, it was bizarre. So, well, 𝐒𝐨𝐿𝐴𝐮𝐭𝐼𝐿 called me on Wednesday and was like, what happened to the show on Tuesday? And I was just like, what? You didn't remind me? I mean, how is this my fault? It's where the official In Time position is, it's his fault that we missed a show. We didn't miss it, but long story at any rate. with luck, we'll have a show on Tuesday. With luck, we won't need another show between now and then. If we do, we'll be there. And in the meantime, come join us on the Discord. You can also have a chat with Commander for all of his introvertedness. I have never seen him fail to give a thoughtful reply to any thoughtful questions posed to him on our Discord, and there have been more than a few about military and various other things. So come join us, and we look forward to seeing you all then. Have a good night.
So this is how liberty dies, with thunderous applause.